It is very rare when we get a standalone game release on Roblox that has the hype and quality around it that Urban Shade Hadal Division's Pressure had. I remember distinctly playing this game when it came out with a buddy of mine, and oh boy was it awesome. I went into Pressure skeptical, thinking it was a Doors knockoff, but oh boy, I could not be more wrong. This game is beautiful. To begin, Pressure is inspired by many great games. Officially, Urban Shade cites Doors, Iron Lung, Ultra Kill, and SCP Containment Breach. That being said, there are other inspirations and references spread throughout the game. One of my favorite sections to go through in Pressure is the heavy containment section. These huge industrial doors replace the standard bulkheads. The dark blue is replaced with a lifeless gray. Within these halls, you can find tons of references to other games, which really shows the inspiration. Some of my favorites is the crucifix from Doors and the physics gun from Gmod. That being said, if you're a fan of basically any game franchise, I assure you you'll find an Easter egg that you find appealing. What sets Pressure apart from other games is the lore. What Pressure's story isn't super clear from the start, but as you play, pieces slowly begin to fall into place. There are generally two ways you discover lore: documents and through the environment. Documents you find around the facility, detailing certain events and receiving them upon death. Documents received upon death will unveil a small snippet of lore, as well as a tip to avoid dying from that cause that is embedded within the lore. If you keep dying, more lore will be unveiled and advice will be given. This is a really seamless way to learn the game that is engaging to players, as well as making them less likely to use outside sources like YouTube or the wiki for information. There are also documents you find around the Black Site. These documents fill in lore for creatures that you either can't die to or can't reach. While not all of these documents contain gameplay tips, what they do is make the world of Pressure feel more real and immersive. One of my favorites is the Christmas tree document that is all redacted except for a few words. The few bits of remaining data show that this tree is not holly or jolly. You can actually find out that it killed Rudolph, which is dark as hell. Little lore bits like this are awesome, terrifying, and somehow hilarious at the same time. You also learn of the lore through the environment. As you play Pressure, you'll find things that outlined what happened. For example, meeting the Saboteur or the Painter outlines to the player what is occurring. These NPC encounters are rare, but add so much character to the game. In addition, you find screens around the facility outlining events that occurred prior to your arrival. The NPCs in this game contain so much personality and character. Sebastian is cocky as hell and is hilarious, while Painter somehow makes me feel bad for a sentient Windows 98 that's been trying to blow my brains out with a 50 cal. Audio also plays a huge role in Pressure. The ambient noise in this game is immaculate. Distant sounds of gunshots and doors opening are rare, but tell the player that they aren't the only humans left. You'll hear that clinking of the lights before an angler arrives, or that extremely loud screech of a pinky sneaking up on you. Overall, I would compare it to Five Nights at Freddy's ambient audio. If you guys haven't seen Scruffy's How Audio Enhances the Horror of Five Nights at Freddy's video, by all means go check it out, as a lot of these principles can be applied to Pressure's audio. Link in the description. While we're on the topic of audio, we definitely gotta talk about the soundtrack. This game's soundtrack is a banger. I've said this about TDX's soundtrack as well, but Pressure's soundtrack is of extremely high quality for something from a Roblox game. This soundtrack has range from bleak, somber pieces of self-reflection to the bombastic soundtrack of the finale. If no longer Noel is watching this, man, you cooked. Pressure's sound design and soundtrack are absolutely amazing and do nothing but enhance the player experience. Seriously, go listen to it. Finally, we have the gameplay. As cool as this game may be in concept, it still needs to play good. So how does Pressure stack up? I am pleased to report it plays just as good as the theming. Pressure is a Doors-style game where the objective is to make it through 100 rooms. As the player progresses, a wide variety of monsters will attack. Angler and its variants will rush the room, killing everyone who isn't in a locker or out of sight. Pandemonium will attempt to rip the player from the locker and is effectively a smarter angler. Wall Dwellers will attempt to sneak up on the player and kill it from behind. The Infestation will make you stare at it, frying your brain in the process. Turrets, mines, tripwires, and void spawns will make the rooms more unsafe and require the player to be constantly vigilant, as these threats aren't going to make themselves super apparent. Even though I only named a few of them, all of these threats come together to create a fun gameplay experience. With a large number of these threats, the player must learn these matters to survive. With such a large number of threats, a good number of items exist to also help the player. Pressure has a wide variety of items in the game. Pressure typically generates more items compared to Doors, which in my opinion is an improvement. The larger quantities of items allow players to adapt different playstyles and even take more risks. While a lot of Pressure's items are flashlights, each light is to some extent different, which gives you a reason to carry each of them. In addition, Pressure has support items like code breakers and medkits, which allow the player to play risky and skip over certain difficult rooms. The use of extra items also gives the players a large reason to scrounge around the rooms instead of just bum rushing to the next door. My favorite part about Pressure is the sheer amount of rooms it contains. Although I love doors, my biggest gripe with it is that there are tons of repeat rooms in a run. Pressure contains over 1,000 rooms, with 40 special rooms being contained within the game. Special rooms are rare rooms with extra tidbits of lore and theming. Because of this, no run is really the same. It makes Pressure so replayable. To summarize, Pressure has an absolute crap ton of enemies, items, and rooms types to throw at the players. The game is super fun and has tons of unique scenarios to bestow upon the player. Pressure overall is a fantastic game. If you haven't played it, you seriously should. There are few games I could recommend that are better than Pressure. Whether you like the fun challenges and the puzzles, or are just a lore freak, there's something for everyone. I will likely make a follow-up video discussing Pressure's end sequence, as it is so good I believe it deserves its own video in its own right. Take care, you guys. Make stuff you're proud of. Later. And what do you think of the new mic?